Hey guys, welcome back to iNVision Prototypes. Nick here, filming from the interior of the M40C build. Today we're going to see if we can wrap up this rear wall area. From last time, you remember we formed up this profile template, and that's basically the shape that I want to achieve. We had a drawing that we were going by. Past a little while I've been busy forming up a few pieces, got the sides formed up, got a top section formed up, as well as this bottom area through here, basically from here down. Now the interior is being formed out of a hybrid of parts. We're working with some of the plastic cosmetic pieces that came from the Mustang. Since the piece is already formed, I'm working with the Mustang piece and kind of extending back, integrating them into these steel panels. It might look a bit funny to you, but we're actually doing that for a reason. The plan is to create a mold and then take and pull pieces off the mold. Some of these parts are just a rough part to create the next part. But in terms of the overall appearance, we're gonna rough that in today. So as you can see, we've got our steel panel we formed up with a flange, has a bit of a radius here and shoots off into the back wall area. And then we have this plastic piece out of the Mustang, and we're gonna have to adjust this bottom area through here so we can create a piece that blends into the lower section of the rear wall. And then we'll also have to create a piece for this corner. Let's see if we can slide the top panel in. We might have to do some trimming on it, get that in, and get this lower rear wall kind of pinned in place. Okay, so I've had this piece in several times, and I had to trim up the ends to coordinate with these flanges on the side. We're gonna take and slide this in all the way to the back and see how it looks. It just fell into place, literally. And I need to pull it out one more time. There we go. It's a little bit long, we'll have to adjust that. But it's not fitting too bad. This rear piece here has to be brought forward a little bit in the center to come up against this flange here so we can put a couple fasteners in there. This piece will remain metal, so we will have to shorten it up so that when we wrap it with the leather, that it doesn't actually cause too much friction going in. Now let's see if we can get this bottom piece in. We will have to set the angle of this rear panel correctly because it's kind of just the gravity's pulling it down. So we'll pull that out like that. We have enough room for the rug to go around there. And we have to create some pieces now on the sides. I've created some templates, but we haven't actually fabricated them. I didn't show the process of bending up all these panels inside here because you see me bend up so many panels along the way. But for you to feel that something's missing, we're gonna take and bend up these panels for you guys here. And these are gonna go in. Well, this one's going to go in this location here. Going to follow the curvature of the rear wall, just like that. This will same pattern for the other side. Then we have a transition piece that sits like this at a bit of a radius here, and that'll get mounted to the floor and hold this rear wall at the correct angle. Let's get these pieces bent up and installed on a few screws. Then we'll have a center panel that goes in, and it'll probably be turned into a flip out compartment so he can put his golf clubs, moonshine, whatever in here. Put it in and flip it back. It's not looking too bad. These radiuses are coming in. This tail is gonna be trimmed down to a more manageable length because it's just too much. And then there'll be a side piece that we create later on that goes between here and the ceiling. And we'll get that ceiling installed shortly, I hope. Waiting for the fiberglass resin to cure. Okay, so we're gonna start with these two side pieces, and we have to basically create that offset leg there that allows the rear panel to sit inside, and we'll take and roll the ends in as well. I've taken and transposed all these marks onto one sheet metal piece, then took a center punch and punched the lines, which transposed the exact location onto the second panel. So whichever way we flip it, we have marks on both sides. Nice little trick you can do. I'll figure out which is top, which is bottom. That's the only thing I didn't mark. And by the time I walk from there to here, you kind of forget. But anyway, that's it right there. Our first bend happens along this line here. Take the panel, flip it over, line up our little dots, and create the first bend. Just like that. Line up our second dots. You want to be accurate on both accounts here. And bring that up like that. So we have a nice little flange that the panel will rest on. Probably put a bumper there or on the top, we'll see. Now, before I take and bend these, I'm gonna take and bend up the other panel. Again, our first bend happens on these two dots here. Bending's the easy part. It's getting your head wrapped around which way everything bends. So this is called a finger brake, and I'll show you why in a moment, in case you haven't seen it. We have our right and left. Next step is to take and roll these down. So I need to get a pair of snips, trim up a couple of things here, and then we can start rolling that. Now the reason you call this a finger brake is because you can remove these fingers. It'll allow you to slide your panel in to a particular area so that these flanges don't get in the way when you're bending up. So, see, just like that. Stick that in there. Now, if this piece was in here, I could only roll it up that far and we're stuck. But without that finger there, I take to roll this up all the way. Kind of self-explanatory, but it's a very versatile brake. Just move over a little bit. And there we go. So we have a very nice, crisp, clean panel that we can get installed. And this has been scribed to the edge of the wall, so that'll conform to that edge. And that's it. Now we're going to take and put these fingers back in. On my long brake, we don't have the ability to do this. You have one continuous bending surface. Next step is to take and bend up these panels. We need to create a bit of a radius there. And the radius, if we use a piece of pipe to bend it over, it's too tight. So I'm just going to use my hands, clamp it in the brake, and just roll it up. There we go. First piece bent up, doesn't look too bad. Line up our lines here, our dots, and give that a bend, just like that. So that looks quite nice. So that's our first bend. Now we have to take and bend this leg upward because that's what's going to attach to the floor. And it's important to keep track of your bends and which one you did first, because we'll have to replicate it for the other side. Now I kind of overbent this a little bit, so we're going to take and straighten out that bend just a little bit, just like that. We'll clamp that piece in place, just like that. So that doesn't look too bad, doesn't fit too bad. The reason that's jumping up is because this bottom floor section needs to come out a little bit. See, as soon as I pull it out, that comes back into place. We can get that side in. It's a side you can't see, but we'll get it installed. Now, I need to jump out of the car one more time. I forgot to grab the snips and trim up some of the legs. Are a little bit long. You can trim this back. So in order for us to get these to sit correctly at the bottom, because the angle is wrong, our wall is too vertical, we need to take and bring the wall out. Very good. Oh, come back here. Yeah, I talked to screws too. With this side pinned to the floor, we have to get the driver's side pinned. Then we can go ahead and cut this area out off this plastic molding, create a template of a transition piece to go from here to this rear wall. And we'll have to do something on the top. Kind of work the larger areas in first, get to the smaller ones. You see that? It fits in there just like that. So we can probably put a screw there too. And that's it for the rear wall. Before we go dropping the center console in, as well as our rear wall, we can get that in now. But before we get this in, to give you guys a more complete picture of the back, it's really shaping up nice. But before we do that, so you guys can see down here, we'll get a template made up for this part. But first I have to cut away some plastic. I've been using a zip blade, but I'm just wondering if these metal snips will work. Hey, look at that. and no hot burning plastic sticking to your skin either. I like that. You know, like a hot knife through butter, just goes right through. Better remember that for next time. All right. Now I have to scrounge up a piece of cardboard, and we'll create a template. That harness clips in right up in here. Just keeps falling down. So there's our cardboard, and that's going to sit up against, actually hook into the rear wall like that. I just need to be able to see the plastic part. Let's use a dirty glove method and create a line, holding the tongue just right. Let's see how close we can get to the right curvature. Look at that. So let's strike a line there. We're going to add a flange on here. As well as we can cut that off. So that's going to sit just like that. What I did here was I created an offset in the sheet metal panel to allow this one to sit into. That way when we're building up the molds, we're not building up too much thickness too fast. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to take and create an offset in the sheet metal, and that'll slide in. We'll put a couple screws and then call it done. And then that'll sit right up there just like that. Or it can sit in from behind, because then when this panel gets dropped in, it sits on this flange. Better idea. Now, there's no point in me doing it on the template, because I might cut it off by accident. But that's the step that we have to create to allow one to sit into the next one. Take and strike a line following the edge of the template, like that. That's the bottom. Do something like that. Now remember we had a hole here? I'm going to add a little bit of material just for fun, just to fill it in. So we'll cut this one out, flip it over, create the next one so they're identical, and then we'll start bending up what we need to. Bend that up like that. I'm going to get these installed, pinned on a few screws, and see how it works in the car. Oops. If that lever is down, this won't close. Just one of those things. And that locks it in. And we save about 5 feet of space. All right, let's see how this looks in the car. So if that sits up on like that, this doesn't look too bad. This tail is a bit long, so I'll trim that off. Have that settle in just right there. Now this piece has to sit in behind, but it also has to sit behind this one. So I don't know if we'll get it in. It looked good one way. Oh, I know what's going on. I have this tail coming down like that, so we just make more modifications. There. This will go in from behind, but it makes it a lot easier to screw them together because this panel holds that for me. Now we're gonna go through the plastic and capture that sheet metal piece, and we'll have to create a little filler piece down here. I have to see how the door sill plate comes in, but then that'll get finished up after. Ah! Don't worry, didn't get the finger. That's it. So We'll have to do the same thing up here. Get something in there to pull that panel forward. Get a screw in there, hold that together. All right. Get a Slim Jim in here. If you guys know what a Slim Jim is, put it down in the comments. I don't know if too many people, younger people, have heard of that tool. There we go. We need one more screw here, but we'll do that when it's out of the car, because then I can bring that up comfortably. We'll adjust that flange, slip in behind, and then we'll finish that corner, and down there. But as you can see with this Elephant, one piece at a time. You just work your way out to a finished product. Let's drop in that rear wall and the center console and kind of finalize this back area here. We'll get this in later because I have to do some trimming over there. Uh-oh. We're too long. Not a problem. We'll go back to the woodworking shop and trim it up. All right, so I just finished marking this and let's cut this off. Okay. Old habits die hard. That won't work, but this will. Let's give this another try. Like a glove. Look at that. That is beautiful. The reason it didn't fit is because these legs, I didn't bend them totally 90 degrees. They're angled back a bit, so that caused that fitment issue. Aside from that, that's it. In this panel, on this panel, we're more than likely going to create a compartment unit that flips out. Not quite like that, but on hinges, of course. And you can put a golf bag in here, whatever, slide it in from the door, and flip it shut. Done. That's what we started with. Just a simple profile template and designed everything off of that. You can see all the dimensions, everything's been calculated out and transposed onto real sheet metal and formed up. There is a slight difference in the length of this area. I brought this area up a little bit just because of the configuration in behind. With this compartment flipping down, if this was too low, it would have hit that seat rail. There's not going to be any seats back here, obviously. It's going to be a two-seater. It's one thing to draw it on paper and then kind of bend things up, but when you actually get working with it, things can change. There's nothing wrong with changing your design or things along the way, as long as it's not too significant, because if you keep changing, then you'll never get done. But if you have to make an accommodation for like that rail through there, that's fine, just work with it. Anyway, let's get the center console in and see what it looks like. That's it, it's home. So we'll get all that cleaned up later, don't worry about that. But our primary concern is that everything fits inside the car. A few things we have to adjust on the panels, and we'll start probably fabricating that compartment. That'll be done out of a wooden piece on hinges that come out. The hinges, you won't see them, they'll be hidden from behind. We still need to create the side pieces, and that ceiling liner is still in the works. Appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Give us a thumbs up if you like what you see, and see you next time, guys. Take care.